Chapter 200, An Assassin's Weakness. Ling Tian looked towards the meditating Ling Feng and then he looked towards Ling Jian, who was staring at the battle intently with his eyes burning with fighting spirit. Ling Tian then couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Thankfully I came here today. If not, more than half of this rare opportunity to raise the 5 of their strengths would probably be missed. How was this the time to be in meditation? Of the two engaged in an intense battle, one was Ling Yun, who had similar sword skills to Ling Feng, and the other was the enemy who just defeated Ling Feng. This was the best time for Ling Feng to observe them to improve himself. After personally fighting Yu Tian, observing Ling Yun fight Yu Tian with similar sword skills was the best time for him to notice the areas where improvements could be made. This should be time for Ling Feng to be afraid that he wasn't paying enough attention. However, Ling Feng actually chose to close his eyes in meditation at such a time. Even if his inner chi was in disorder, he could open his eyes and slowly recuperate, right? Ling Jian was filled with eagerness to fight and actually forgot to comment on Ling Feng's performance or remind him to pay close attention. This made Ling Tian have the urge to jump down and give him a good beating. Did he completely forget about his duties? Ling Feng, who was in meditation, felt a light jab on his back as a short branch fell onto the floor. In shock, he wanted to turn back to take a look but heard a sudden whisper, "Idiot! Is this the time for you to be in meditation? Open your eyes and watch them carefully." Ling Feng's body shook as he recognized that this was the voice of his young noble. So, young noble is here. A look of respect and worship then filled his face as he opened his eyes wide to observe the fight between Ling Yun and Yu Tian. After watching them carefully, he finally realized what he had just missed out on previously. He was immediately filled with regret, widening his eyes and not looking anywhere else from that moment onwards. At the same time, Ling Yan's voice also sounded by Ling Jian's ears, "Bsd Road Jian. How are you teaching your disciples? Ignoring them completely after the fight is over? Bsd Road thing." Ling Jian was dumbfounded as his pale face gradually turned red. He couldn't help but curse himself for forgetting everything the moment he witnessed a fierce battle in front of him. He actually forgot the main purpose of the battle today. If not for the young noble secretly following them here, he probably would have screwed things up badly today. After fighting 4 rounds, Yu Tian's breathing also grew ragged. Now, he no longer felt that he was fighting against 14s. Instead, he felt as though he was facing 4 ferocious beasts. 4 wolves which were completely famished. He was also extremely exhausted. Especially the fact that he couldn't deal a killing blow was complete torture to Third Master Yu. However, the wolves in front of him didn't have any considerations at all, with every one of their attacks with the intention of taking his life. Yu Tian felt his head throb. The extremely resilient Third Master Yu felt himself dying from this headache. But thankfully, the martial arts of these 4 fellows were similar, making Yu Tian's life slightly easier. But despite that, his robe was already in tatters, with him almost having to run around nude. There were also 7 to 8 wounds on his body. Since these wounds were just scratches, Yu Tian felt that his opponents had shown him some mercy. Otherwise, his fiery temper would have exploded by now. Last one left. Third Master Yu panted as he felt a sense of relief. After this last one, I must definitely call for a break. Damn it, even a man made from iron won't be able to withstand fighting so many people at once. Ling Qi walked forward slowly and looked at Yu Tian's ragged breathing. He hesitated for a moment before taking a step back, returning his sword to the sheath, and saying, "Third Master, you should rest first." After saying that, he ignored Yu Tian's reaction and sat cross-legged on the floor, closing his eyes and shutting down all his senses. Ling Tian on the tree, Ling Jian below the tree, and Yu Tian revealed faces of admiration at the same time. Regardless of how good his martial arts were, Ling Kai's bearing alone had already displayed the grandeur of a great warrior. A look of guilt then appeared on the faces of Ling Yan, Ling Lei, and Ling Qi, as they lowered their heads in shame. Ling Jian's sharp gaze then swept past the three of them. "Raise your heads up. Look at how you guys are acting." Ling Qi respects his opponent and recognizes that he is a hero, allowing him the chance to catch his breath. This is a heroic act, and it is admirable of him to do so. However, you guys weren't wrong either. Remember what your mission is, saving your strength to kill the enemy. Today, the battle with Third Master is only a friendly spar and not a life or death battle. Thus, Ling Kai's actions are still acceptable. However, if you guys were to start pitying your opponent in a life or death battle, that is only treating your life as a joke. That is no more than idiocracy and not heroism. The five of them nodded their heads solemnly in response to what Ling Jian said. After pausing for a moment, Ling Jian continued, "All of you must remember that the enemy is the enemy. Even if the enemy is a highly revered hero or a saint worshipped by the world, his status will disappear when he is in a life or death battle with you guys. The only thing that will never change is the fact that he can kill you. He is your enemy. Understand?" Without a doubt, Ling Jian's words were definitely a little extreme. However, to the five of them who were in such a special occupation, this was also an important principle. As Ling Jian said that, the five of them nodded their heads in acknowledgement. Even Yu Tian, who was in meditation, couldn't help but open his eyes to consider what Ling Jian said. Hiding in the tree, Ling Tian also thought about what Ling Jian said carefully and felt as though something was wrong. After thinking about it for a long while, Ling Tian realized that Ling Jian's character was growing a little too extreme under his training. In fact, Ling Jian's morals were becoming a little twisted already. While Ling Tian did indeed wish for Ling Jian to be a little more heartless, thus protecting himself better from harm, it didn't mean that Ling Tian wished for Ling Jian to be a completely heartless killing machine. This was not something which Ling Tian wanted to happen. In Ling Tian's heart, Ling Jian, Ling Feng, Ling Qi and the rest, were all loyal subordinates who were worthy of his trust. At the same time, they were also like his brothers. Ling Tian wished for each one of them to have exceptional abilities, making a name for themselves. At the same time, he also wished for them to find someone they loved and to enjoy a carefree life as well. Ling Yan's ideal dream would be for all of them to have their own wife, exploring the continent and enjoying their lives after Ling Tian's plan had come to fruition. Not only did he want them to go through sufferings with him, Ling Tian also wanted them to enjoy riches and honor with him. Even if Ling Tian himself couldn't be bothered about authority and riches, he would definitely arrange a good path for all his brothers. This was also the plan which Ling Tian had in mind for all of his brothers. But if things were to continue to develop this way, all of these young lads would probably turn into no more than killing machines, sealing away their hearts forever. Finally, they would be no more than cold-blooded assassins who only answered to Ling Tian. In Ling Tian's heart, he would rather give up such a power and choose the brothers in front of him who still had their heart and soul. Be it to rule to the continent or control the pugilistic world, while such a power would definitely raise his strength greatly, nothing was absolute. At that moment, Ling Tian was certain that a civics and moral education class was necessary for all of them. Ling Tian only wanted brothers who had a heart and soul, and definitely not cold-blooded assassins. Finally, Yu Tian took the initiative to stand up. At the same time, Ling Qi also sprang forward from the ground. With a shang, his sword was drawn and pointed straight at Yu Tian. "Please. Please." The both of them said in unison. A completely new look of seriousness could be seen on Yu Tian's face. It wasn't because of his opponent's strength, but it was because of his opponent's sparring. Furthermore, this was especially rare for an assassin. No matter how his strength was, Yu Tian wanted to treat this battle seriously and give the respect due to his opponent. With Ling Kai's recent improvements, his strength was far ahead of the other four and was no weaker than Ling Jian himself. Furthermore, The bearing which Ling Qi displayed was something that Yu Tian couldn't ignore. Knowing that Yu Tian wouldn't make the first move, Ling Qi didn't stand on ceremony and stabbed out swiftly. The sheer speed of his sword actually created a whoosh sound from slicing through the air. It wasn't the howling sound of the winds generated from the force of his strike, but the sound of his sword rubbing against the air. Just how fast was his sword? With this attack alone, Yu Tian was already startled. Even Ling Tian, who was on the tree, and Ling Jian, who was on the ground, had an odd look on their faces. Both of them hadn't expected Ling Qi to improve so quickly. Yu Tian countered the myriad changes by remaining unchanged. Stabbing out his long sword calmly, the tip of his sword followed Ling Kai's ever-changing moves. The body of Ling Kai's sword trembled like an azure dragon unwilling to be trapped, letting out a miserable scream while struggling profusely. Yu Tian's counterattack was obviously different from the previous 4 rounds. He had immediately used 80% of his strength and attacked by staying on defense. Just when Ling Kai's sword was about to touch Yu Tian's sword, the direction of Ling Kai's sword changed suddenly, as his nimble body appeared by Yu Tian's left without the slightest bit of struggle. With 3 strikes, he targeted Yu Tian's vitals. When Yu Tian raised his sword to block Ling Kai's attack, Ling Kai's footwork changed again, appearing behind Yu Tian and letting out 3 attacks that were like shooting stars. Before his first move was even completed, he had already followed up with the next move. At the start, his sword attacked the left. When being blocked, he had already shifted to the back of his enemy. The speed of his attack was just too rare. Chapter 201, Life and Death. Ling Jian was dumbfounded. He was certain that even if he fought Yu Tian personally, he wouldn't be able to do much better than Ling Qi. In that instant, the competitive spirit in him was ignited and he was spurred to cultivate quickly so he wouldn't be overtaken by his brother. In just the blink of an eye, Ling Qi had actually circled around Yu Tian a full 19 times. At the same time, Yu Tian had also received a total of 57 attacks. However, the most amazing part was that their swords had never touched each other. Yu Tian was unable to find Ling Kai's sword with his own, while Ling Qi had intentionally avoided Yu Tian's sword. Ling Qi knew that his cultivation was far from Yu Tian's level and that any contact would only increase his exhaustion. Thus, he chose to adopt such a strategy. Ling Kai's strategy was no doubt the best approach. As Ling Tian looked at their intense battle, he praised him as he thought, to face an opponent like Yu Tian, a powerful Xian expert, Ling Kai's strategy is undoubtedly the most suitable. Dragging out the battle was the best method. As long as Ling Kai's inner chi can continue to keep up, and he can maintain such a speed, the first to lose his patience will definitely be Yu Tian. The moment Yu Tian loses his patience, that would be the best time to strike. However, Ling Tian still couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Ling Kai's inner chi was just far too shallow as compared to Yu Tian. While his strategy was correct, his inner chi would never be able to last until Yu Tian became impatient. Therefore, Ling Kai's loss was already determined. Despite that, this battle was still extremely beneficial to the other 4. After all, Ling Qi had just displayed the best way to deal with an expert like Yu Tian. This strategy was something that the other 4 of them hadn't managed to come up with. In retrospect, Ling Tian was just too young. Despite having experience from both his lifetimes, his accumulated knowledge and wisdom was still limited. He had still underestimated Yu Tian. Yu Tian wasn't the arrogant and conceited Nangong Tian who. While he was an extremely straightforward person, he was also a martial arts fanatic who had been through hundreds of battles. After stepping into the Xiantian stage, his martial arts attainment had far exceeded others. While he was usually a careless and rash individual, this didn't include how he would act in a martial arts spar. He was certain that Ling Qi would definitely not be able to maintain his speed for long. He raised his guard and waited without any impatience or arrogance. He was certain that Ling Qi wouldn't be able to spin around him forever, and his own Xiantian inner qi wasn't something that the teen in front of him could ever equal. After cultivating for over 30 years and breaking into the Xiantian stage, Yumantian's patience and confidence were already ahead above the rest. Ling Kai's footwork suddenly sped up, and ding-ding-ding sounds could be heard all around. Ling Kai's body had almost transformed into a blur of white light, while Yumantian still maintained his principle of defense is the best offense. From afar, both of their bodies could no longer be seen. The only thing that could be seen was a white flash continuously charging at a wall of white light. All of a sudden, Ling Qi let out a crisp cry, and a flash of white light shot into the sky. From the momentum of spinning a few hundred rounds, Ling Kai's body shot into the air. Without even using any strength, Ling Qi was already 40 feet in the air. His slim figure made a backflip in the air as his long sword shook, turning into thousands of silver lights raining down from above. He then charged at Yumantian, like a meteor crashing down to earth. A look of praise could then be seen on Ling Tian's face, and he said, "Good brat." Ling Qi actually chose to launch the 9 firmament lightning flash move at such a time. This was definitely Ling Kai's final move. After all, Ling Qi had already channeled all of his strength into this single attack. After this attack, regardless of victory or defeat, Ling Qi wouldn't have any strength left. If Yumantian couldn't block this attack, he would definitely be sliced up by Ling Qi. For Ling Qi to unleash this move now, Ling Tian predicted that Ling Qi had no chance of victory, and would definitely pay a heavy price. If Yumantian hadn't promised to not make any killing blows, Ling Tian would definitely separate the both of them now. Otherwise, Ling Qi might even sacrifice his life as the price. Perhaps it isn't so bad a thing to let this brat suffer a good lesson, Ling Tian thought to himself. However, Ling Tian was wrong. He had underestimated Yumantian's character and his strength. Ling Qi had grasped the best timing, and his attack was indeed something that Yumantian didn't expect. However, a junior like Ling Qi couldn't compare to Yumantian's battle experience. Yumantian's strategy was to wait for Ling Qi to run out of stamina before launching his counterattack. Things were different from what Ling Tian had imagined. Even if Yumantian couldn't keep up with Ling Kai's speed, it didn't mean that Yumantian's weapon couldn't. With Yumantian's discernment, he had long since seen through Ling Kai's attack and could have finished Ling Qi off a long time ago. The only issue was the fact that Ling Qi might be heavily injured or even killed. This wasn't entirely out of the question even with his promise. All martial artists definitely had the instinct to protect themselves. This battle had already far exceeded the realms of a casual spar with Ling Qi and the rest fighting Yumantian without holding anything back. With Ling Qi unleashing such a deadly attack, none of them could fault Yumantian for seriously injuring or even killing Ling Qi. While Ling Tian had the experience of 2 different lives, he was too focused on the outcome instead of the process. He treated his subordinates with sincerity, but he had never nurtured their character. Because of this, Ling Jian, Ling Qi, and the rest of them were all made from the same mold. Ling Tian's actions had unknowingly caused all of their characters to be a little extreme. Even with his wealth of experience, Yumantian didn't expect Ling Qi to change his strategy so suddenly. Furthermore, he had suddenly unleashed a killing move. Before the sword arrived, Yumantian could already feel the destructive force of it. His face also changed immediately as he thought, "What are these brats thinking? What are these brats really trying to do? Can't you guys tell that I have already shown you mercy? I am sparring with you guys, but every single move by you guys is out to kill me. Every single move is filled with killing intent. Don't tell me this is a trap? A trap to kill me?" From the self-protective instinct of a martial artist, the instinct of a Xiantian expert, Yumantian's first reaction was to retaliate with all his strength. While Ling Qi was the youngest of the 5 brats, he was also the strongest among them. His moves were well practiced, and his movement technique was exquisite. He was already no weaker than Ling Tian. Furthermore, Ling Qi had broken through into the 5th stage of the Divine Shocking Dragon formula a few days back. However, if his skills were compared to Yu Tian's retaliation, Ling Qi wouldn't just be injured, instead he would definitely die. With his Tian senses alerted, Yu Tian instinctively spun around. As he spun, a shining bright silver lotus, made from sword light, could be seen revolving around his body. Many layers of these lotus flowers then shot upwards to receive Ling Kai's attack. This was the final move Yu Tian used to deal with Ling Tian, the 9 lotus seeds. It was something for Ling Qi to be proud of, to force Yu Tian to use the 9 lotus seeds. However, Ling Tian seemed to have realized something, but it was already too late. It was already far too late for him to stop Yu Tian. As long as both the attacks collided, Ling Qi would certainly die. There was no way he could emerge alive. As for Ling Tian and the rest, because of their lack of experience and the fact that there was no risk in the previous battles, they couldn't notice the danger Ling Qi was in. In the instant both their swords crossed, Yu Tian's usually proud face revealed a trace of comprehension. After the loud ring of metal clashing, Ling Kai's body flew out and Yu Tian took a few steps back. His already red face turned completely dark red, and he slowly walked towards the direction that Ling Qi had flown. Ling Qi didn't die? Ling Tian had already flown up into the air, grabbing Ling Kai's body and landing gently back on the ground. After checking Ling Kai's breathing, he quickly placed a pill in Ling Kai's mouth. At the same time, he placed a palm on Ling Kai's chest and another on Ling Kai's back, transmitting a pure wave of inner qi. Ling Kai's injuries weren't too far off from his prediction. While his injuries were a little more serious as compared to Ling Feng and the rest, they weren't too serious. Apart from Yu Tian himself, only Ling Tian knew what had just happened. With Yu Tian's martial arts, while the previous situation was critical, it was all under his control. However, Ling Kai's final attack was just far too dangerous, causing Yu Tian to be suspicious. Without thinking too much, he unleashed the 9 lotus seeds with all his strength. If both the moves were to collide, Ling Qi would certainly be dead. Although Yu Tian promised not to kill, the 5 of them had unleashed killing moves at every moment in their spar with him. Limiting Yu Tian from unleashing any killer moves was already extremely unreasonable. While Ling Tian was wise, some of his thoughts were no more than wishful thinking. This was a flaw in Ling Tian's character, that he only thought from his own perspective and didn't consider others' point of view. In other words, even if Yu Tian were to kill Ling Qi, it wasn't unreasonable for him to do so. Chapter 202, One Fell Swoop. While Yu Tian was unbridled and a brawler, his chivalrous character was also the best, his promise worth its weight in gold. He was also greatly fond of talents, and at the last moment when their blades met, his mind spun and ignoring the effects on his body, he forcibly retracted his power by at least 30%. With Ling Kai's current strength, how could he bear the force behind Yu Tian's full-powered strike? Even with that reduced 70% strike, he ended up in a dead faint, but at least he preserved his life. All sorts of feelings welled up in Ling Tian's heart at this time. He had believed himself infallible when he thought that the third master of an aristocratic family, a mighty Tian stage expert, would allow himself to be played with like a toy for his brothers, asking him to be just a punching bag without being able to retaliate. If something had happened to Ling Qi, could he really blame Yu Tian for that? Ling Tian now felt that he owed Yu Tian an immeasurably huge favor. With Yu Tian's character, he would definitely put it behind him, but could Ling Tian really do that? After a while, Ling Qi finally groaned and slowly opened his eyes. He recalled that when he had rushed in, just at the moment when their blades met, he diverted a portion of his strength, using it to protect his heart. It was because of this action that, while he received some internal injuries, There were no huge problems in his body. Ling Tian glanced at the 6 little brats with a strange expression. He was particularly fond of talents, or he wouldn't have gladly suffered internal injuries to withdraw 30% of his strength. All of them were rare martial arts talents, especially Ling Tian and Ling Qi. The potential of these two could be described with just one word: limitless. Ling Tian strongly believed that, given another decade, they would reach his current level. Right now though, it would be impossible for them to defeat him one-on-one unless the 5 of them were to band up together. Without Ling Tian and with just the strength of the 5 brats, he would be able to take on 3 and still come out victorious, although it would be a little time-consuming. If it was 1 against 4, then most likely the fight would end up as a draw, or perhaps with his experience he might obtain a victory at the end. With 1 against 5 it would be difficult for him, but he had confidence that he would bring at least 3 of them down with him. But to hear that the young noble could easily take on 1 against 3, Ling Tian immediately felt that he wasn't that good after all. He couldn't help but feel depressed and thought, were geniuses so common these days that they could be found anywhere? He was a straightforward and big-hearted bloke, always being true to his word. If his skills were below someone else's, there was no sense in denying it. Although he could win against 3 with his skills, he wouldn't be able to do so easily, therefore it could be considered a loss. "Third Master, how are all my brothers?" Before Ling Tian could admit his defeat, Ling Tian's voice had already traveled to his ears. He let out a sigh before praising, "They're not bad. In fact, they're pretty good." AI, to be so appreciative of talents and yet only give them a rating of pretty good. In the younger generation of the Yu family, those who could reach this standard would probably be only 2 or 3 out of 10 of them. Ling Tian couldn't help but sob inwardly, to think that the prestigious Yu family would actually fall behind a tiny assassin organization. "Third Master has probably already seen that my brothers have martial skills that are beyond the ordinary. Furthermore, since they have trained together since they were young and have a secret battle formation among themselves. With Third Master's outstanding cultivation, you could fend off 2, but once there are 3 of them, you'll only have a tiny sliver of a chance for victory." Ling Tian leisurely spoke, a strange look in his eyes as he awaited Ling Tian's response. Ling Tian's eyes flashed as he replied, "That might not be the case. This Yu believes that he can still triumph over 3 at once, just that it would take a long time. To think that your house's young noble only needs a short time to do the same, this Yu can only admit his loss. Since his skills were not on par, there was no need to call himself the Third Master anymore." "Ha ha ha." Ling Tian suddenly let out a laugh before continuing, "If Third Master thinks this way, then you're quite wrong." "Wrong?" Ling Tian lifted up his head quickly, "What's wrong? Don't tell me you were lying when you said that your young noble could defeat them quickly. Kid, while this old man likes your guts, if you lie to me, you can believe that I can silence you as well." "Calm down, Third Master. Everything I said was the truth, but I left out some points." Ling Tian let out a sly smile, saying, "Third Master does not know that all our skills were personally taught by our young noble. Do you understand now?" Ling Tian stood there stunned for a moment, before bursting out into loud laughter, to the point that even tears were rolling down his face. One could see how happy he was with that explanation. "No wonder. The last time I met your house's young noble, I realized that while his skills were fantastic, he had yet to enter the Xian realm, so how could he win against 3 of them easily? Haha, now I know, for him to deal with his own disciples, wouldn't that be a piece of cake? Furthermore, you people won't have killing intent for your master, and hence your skills will be weakened. Now that I have a better picture of their skills, I believe that facing them I can defeat them in 100 moves. If that's the case, the white-dressed kid's strength should be about 70% of mine. He's at most on par with me, but if he hasn't entered Xian, then I'll be the final winner. Damn your grandma, you gave me a shock. Ha ha ha." While he was complaining, from the continuous laughter, one could see that he was extremely elated. This Yu Tian was indeed a martial arts fanatic of a generation, and what he concluded wasn't wrong. However, he made an error in believing that Ling Tian could only win if it was 1 against 3. Actually, no one said that Ling Tian couldn't obtain victory even in a 1 versus 5 scenario. Of course, that was because Ling Tian had broken through to the 9th layer recently, otherwise wanting to defeat 5 people at the same time would be too hard. Since that's the case, you might as well tell the white-dressed kid to hurry up and fight me. If the disciples are already of such standard, one can imagine the prowess of the teacher. Yu Tian spoke with excited tones, as though he had already completely forgotten the fight just now. Though you could say that, but, Ling Jian put on a helpless face. Young noble said that the rules can't be bent, so I can only ask Third Master to understand. Damn it! Yu Tian raged immediately. Isn't this taking advantage of me? Even people get to bargain when buying vegetables, but this jerk actually only has 1 price. This daddy doesn't want to play anymore. Also, this daddy had been. Anyways, I can't defeat the 3 of them if they work together currently. But I want to exchange moves with the white-dressed kid. People get to bargain when buying vegetables? 1 fixed price? The 6 youths immediately exploded into laughter. This Third Master was really too imaginative to even come out with such descriptions. The person up in the tree sunk in deep contemplation. Such a character was definitely worth befriending. Oh, Third Master, my house's young noble never said that you had to win today. If you can't, you can always come back tomorrow, Ling Jian slowly spoke. At this point, Ling Jian felt like he had become a mini Ling Tian. For him to replicate his role model, it was definitely a joyous occasion for him. HNG? What does he mean? Say it straight up front, don't beat around the bush. Yu Tian started to get suspicious. He was after all only brash and uncouth, but not stupid, thus he immediately smelled a conspiracy behind all this. Ling Jian imitated Ling Tian's laughter before replying, if you can't win today, it doesn't mean you can't do it tomorrow. There will come a day when you will obtain victory. This caused Yu Tian's eyes to shine. You mean? Ling Jian smiled meaningfully as he replied, rest assured, Third Master. As long as you are willing, us brothers will always be here for you to challenge until the day you can defeat 3 of them working together. As such, not only can you relieve your boredom, you can also quickly raise the level of your skills. Furthermore, you're still working to your original goal of challenging my house's young noble. Isn't that dealing with everything in one fell swoop? Chapter 203, Borrowing External Help. Yu Tian might be rude and impetuous, with a blunt personality, but that didn't mean he was an idiot. He immediately grasped Ling Jian's true meaning and said, FK, that's some good plan you have there, to use me to train your soldiers. Aren't you afraid of giving up your lives? Your moves might be good, but this Third Master's moves are better, and with your current standard. Third Master's words are too harsh. Ling Jian didn't refute his accusation, instead silencing him by saying, while these kids will receive some extra training, your benefits will not be small either. Unless Third Master doesn't dare to take up this challenge. Yu Tian immediately hesitated. Ever since he suffered a defeat under Ling Tian's hands, he had only thought of improving his strength in the fastest way possible so that he could reclaim his position from Ling Tian. These past few days of madly sparring were partially because of Ling Tian's goading, but also because of the need to improve his skills. Since he had already fought each of the experts in sky-bearing, Third Master Yu was once again left with no one to fight against. After all, he couldn't just repeatedly challenge them, right? From a certain point of view, Ling Jian's suggestion was exactly what he wanted. To have this sort of free practice to improve himself was something one could only chance upon and not seek for. Helping the kids improve themselves was not such a bad idea either, since he admired their talent. However, Yu Tian was clearly aware that these fellows were young hawks in the middle of learning how to hunt. By comparing notes and improving, it was mutually beneficial, but although his skills might grow somewhat, the kids' skills would improve by leaps and bounds. If he continuously helped the kids to improve their capabilities but didn't break through himself, then wouldn't he completely fail in his mission? Once these 6 people matured in the martial arts community, they would undoubtedly have a huge negative impact on the Yu family's hegemony. Would he win big or lose big from this? Even after pondering deeply, Third Master Yu couldn't decide. This opportunity was something he definitely couldn't afford to let go, but if he accepted, the consequences might be too huge for him to bear. Brother Jian, it looks like Mr. Beard isn't too happy about this decision. Let's go back, seeing that this man refuses to take any risk. Haze, I shouldn't have come today. Ling Qi immediately saw through the inner turmoil of Yu Tian and started to goad him. This sentence struck deep into his soft spot. You damned BSD road, if not for this third master just now. Yu Tian glared over, about to explode. Yeah man, Brother Jian, let's just leave. With the chemistry between the 5 brothers, how could they not catch Ling Kai's meaning? They all began to clamor one after another. You group of BSTRDS. All of you shut up for this daddy. I'm thoroughly infuriated. Especially you group of beardless boys, what do you know? Bunch of brats. Yu Tian slowly walked step by step towards them, looking like he was ready to butcher someone. In his agitation, spittle flew out from his mouth all over the brothers. Looking at his state, if someone spoke another word, he would probably beat the guy up until he looked like a pig's head. Ling Qi spoke calmly and without fear, what do I know? You've already spent more than an hour pondering over such a small matter. What kind of Yu family's number 3 are you? It's okay if you're wishy-washy like a woman and can't decide, but I expected a more manly response from someone who has such a big beard. Your mom's fart. Who says I took an hour? Yu Tian was apoplectic with rage, thinking, I only took a moment, okay? How dare you say I hesitated for an hour? I shouldn't have restrained my strength just now. Once this old man has recovered, I will make sure I play you until you're dead. Who says this old man doesn't dare to agree? I agree. Little BSD Road, if you dare say that I'm wishy-washy like a woman again, this old man will bust your balls. Third Master Yu loudly announced his promise after making up his mind. Ling Qi softly spat. Since he had achieved his objective, of course he wouldn't continue this conversation. Seeing that their objective had been achieved, Ling Jian didn't say anything much and left with a parting word, Third Master, please come alone when you visit next time. Yu Tian readily agreed, and even without Ling Jian's reminder he wouldn't have brought anyone here. Yu Tian estimated that he would need at least 3 days to recover fully from his internal injuries. For someone as concerned with face as him, how could he let them get away with not showing him proper respect? After 3 days of rest, I will make those kids eat their shoes. In Yu Tian's opinion, his battle today with the 5 kids was more tiring than fighting the 4 experts of the great families. This was especially true for the last match because he had sustained some internal injuries. If he had chosen to persevere and fight them 3 against 1, the person suffering in the end would have been him. Having thought to this point, Yu Tian knew it was pointless to continue, and so bid them farewell. Seeing Yu Tian's silhouette slowly disappear into the forest, the 6 of them regained their usual icy indifference. They exchanged glances, and all of them had looks of excitement within. Are you all very pleased? A light and indifferent voice sounded from behind them. The 6 of them turned at once, kneeling down in salute. Young noble. Clad in white robes, Ling Tian sighed before replying, stand up. Turning as he looked at each one of them, Ling Tian suddenly focused on Ling Qi as his eyes revealed a warm smiling expression. In today's battle, Ling Qi was wounded the most, but your benefits are also the most, right? Only. Ling Qi, Did you know that the third master was lenient towards you? He was lenient? That can't be true. At the last moment, if not for my trajectory change, I would have been seriously injured. How can that be called lenient? Ling Qi found it unbelievable. AI, because your senses are still limited, you couldn't feel it. Let alone you guys, even I have underestimated this strength. If not for his soft heart, forcibly retracting 30% of his strength and enduring the damage to his body, you would have been dead. Ling Tian had a look of respect on his face, but his words were incomparably serious. Ling Tian had always used an expressionless and indifferent face when talking to them, as though life and death were in his grasp. To have such a solemn expression when talking about this matter, everyone began to feel a little panicky, and Ling Jian questioned, "Young noble, was you Man Tian really lenient? He didn't even get injured." Ling Tian sighed again, turning to Ling Jian as he addressed the question, "Jian, you're the best among them and your cultivation just a bit away from Xiantian. However, it was only when I reached Xiantian that I realized this guy is really sincere. If he hadn't received internal injuries due to retracting his strength, you might not defeat him even if 4 of you were to go against him. From now on Ling Tian, will never again belittle any of the martial arts experts in this world." Ling Jian hesitated before commenting, "Young noble, then based on this, do we need to make some changes to our plans?" Ling Tian shook his head, "There's no need. Jian, from today onwards, you will take charge of this matter, ensuring that safety is the highest priority and always having a way to retreat from the fight. Regarding Yu Man Tian's character, he isn't the kind to actually go in for the kill. However, Ling Qi, the next time you see him you have to give him an apology because you owe him a favor now." Facing the 6 of them, Ling Tian slowly spoke, "All martial arts paths under heaven lead to the same place. At the peak, everyone sees the same scenery. However, you have to always remember this sentence." Ling Tian cast a look at all of them, his eyes seemingly having flashes of lightning. All of them were shocked and quickly directed all their attention at him, fearing that they would miss hearing a single word. Only by having a gentle and calm state of mind can you reach the peak of martial arts. Ling Tian said severely. "You guys are currently diverting from your path, especially Ling Jian. By only soaking in killing and murder, you guys will never step into the true form of martial arts." The 6 youths stared at each other with puzzled looks. Finally, Ling Jian mustered up his courage and said, "Young noble, from the beginning we have practiced killing moves, so how could we maintain a calm and gentle mental state?" "Fool!" Ling Tian raged, "Martial arts were originally designed to kill. But this does not determine your mental state. Ling Jian, your mental state is far too embittered. When you're supposed to kill, you kill without mercy. But when you're supposed to laugh, or cry, or help someone, you should feel the appropriate emotion in your heart. Do you understand? Only when you're killing someone are you then a killer. When you are not killing anyone, don't walk around with those dead zombie faces." Chapter 204, Repaying Kindness with Evil. Ling Tian took in a deep breath, his hand patting Ling Jian's shoulders while he looked at the rest, and spoke in a serious tone, "Brothers, what I, Ling Tian, need is not a group of merciless killers. I need a group of brothers that I can entrust my heart and soul to. You guys must not only be able to work for me, you also must accompany me. I want to see each and every one of you get married and have children, to enjoy this world. You are all my brothers. Do you understand?" It was close to noon by the time that Ling Tian returned to his residence. He happened to bump into Zhou Yanzu, who was carrying an assortment of packages and about to leave the residence with her bodyguards. "Ms. Zhou, don't you get tired going out to play every day? I'm worried about you," he said. Upon seeing Ling Tian, Zhou Yanzu's face turned a little red, as though she was embarrassed over something, before she snapped, "Is young noble Ling tired of fooling around already? Did you have a great time today?" Ling Tian started, thinking to himself, Did this lass undergo menopause in just these few days? Why does she have such insane mood swings? One moment shy and the next moment furious, it was an unusual sight. Ling Tian didn't know that after he destroyed Yanzu in their battle of words, calling her a frog in a well, Zhou Yanzu had locked herself inside her room for the next few days. After copious research, she found out that she really knew too little about the Southern Sea's 7-colored sandalwood pearl, and this made her ashamed and angry. Zhou Yanzu probably wouldn't have been so angry if Ling Tian had merely been bragging and didn't actually know anything. However, Zhou Yanzu felt that she had lost the battle that time and deeply felt her loss of face, so her anger flared up whenever she saw Ling Tian. Surprisingly, Ling Tian saluted Zhou Fengying, who had just appeared, before turning to Yanzu and saying, "Wow, Miss Zhou seems to be immaculately well dressed today. Don't tell me. A blind date?" Ling Tian purposefully dragged the words "don't tell me," then rattled off the last few words, creating an abrupt and awkward atmosphere. Zhou Yanzu had actually perked up her ears to catch what he was going to say, but the moment the words came out, her entire face turned red and she hatefully spat out, "Blind date your head." Ling Tian laughed before walking past them. However, he suddenly stopped and questioned, "Oh, Miss Zhou, may I ask if the auction will be held before or after the scholarly meeting?" The moment his words came out of the mouth, Zhou Yanzu and Feng Ying both paused in their steps, their expressions changing. Zhou Yanzu cautiously replied, "As for the day, we haven't decided. Does the young noble Ling have any suggestions?" Ling Tian squinted his eyes as he gave a wide grin, "Not really, I was just curious. Such a big auction, how could this young noble not attend?" However, inwardly he thought, what is the meaning behind their change of expressions? If the Zhou family hasn't decided on a fixed time yet, then isn't it a given that it would be after the scholarly meeting? Ling Tian smirked to himself, as he looked at Zhou Fengying with a hidden meaning. You had better not have too much artistic talent, Second Master Zhou." Ling Tian didn't speak further, instead returning back to his courtyard. When his back was facing them, he felt Zhou Fengying's eyes looking meaningfully at his back as he left. The moment he stepped into his courtyard, Ling Chen rushed up to welcome him. Only through their conversation did he realize that people from the Imperial Palace had come earlier and that Consort Ling had already brought old Madame Ling and Chutinger into the palace. Ling Tian couldn't help but feel depressed. They actually agreed to go to the palace together earlier, but now they had gone without him? While he was still young, he was after all a man, so how could he walk into the concubine's palace by himself? He decided not to dwell on this matter anymore and instead shifted a chair underneath the great prax. Raising his head to see the devastated mess around him, he sighed uncontrollably. However, he couldn't help but let out a smile when he thought of Third Master Yu. No matter what happened in the future, whether he became friends or foe with the Yu family, Yu Mantian was someone worth befriending as a lifelong friend. Changing his line of thought, he hadn't seen the shadows of the Zhou family members for the past few days. They seemed to be unnaturally busy, visiting every major power that came to sky-bearing. It was to the point that Zhou Fengying's feet never seemed to touch the ground, as though fatigue didn't exist for him. Right now, he had a huge stack of reports that was the accumulated intelligence on the major powers that had entered sky-bearing in the last few days and were visited by the Zhou family. Ling Tian felt a burst of rage every time he looked at these reports. He knew that while the Zhou family visited them to invite them to their auction, the bigger plot was about the Heaven Splitter sword. This was not the greed of a merchant, but the act of a major power taking advantage of the chaos to rule. Leaning back, Ling Tian narrowed his eyes as a cruel lark appeared in the corners of his mouth. He had just thought of a heartless method by which he could ensure that the members of the Zhou family currently here would never leave sky-bearing. The relations between the Zhou and Ling family seemed harmonious on the surface, But it was clear to Ling Tian that the ambitions of the Zhou family could no longer be held in check. Once the Zhou family took action, then whether the Ling family helped or not, they would inevitably be implicated. The best result would be the confiscation of all of the Ling family's military troops due to fear, but the worst could be that the royal family would just choose to eradicate the Ling family completely. If that was the case, then the Ling family would be facing an unprecedented catastrophe. However, the Zhou family hadn't seemed to have considered this point, or rather, they didn't care about the life and death of the Ling family at all. Just this factor alone caused Ling Tian to rage. Even without talking about the friendship that grandfather Ling had with Zhou Fenghan, and just based on their family and business relations, as well as the number of benefits old Madame Ling had given the Zhou family, it could be said that the Zhou family owed the Ling family in a big way. However, the Zhou family obviously didn't take this into account. Forget about repaying the favor, they were practically using the Ling family as a tool to cause chaos. Repaying kindness with evil. No matter which lifetime it was, what Ling Tian hated most was these sort of people. Two cold rays of light shot out from Ling Tian's eyes as he thought, Zhou family, since you're heartless, then don't blame me for not talking about friendships. If you dare provoke me, I'll make sure that none of you are allowed to leave Skybearing. You come to Skybearing and even use this young master's territory to create chaos, well then you should be prepared for the consequences. Ling Tian ground his teeth as his eyebrows shot up straight like a sword being unsheathed. Ling Chen sat silently beside Ling Tian, and watching his brow furrow tightly, knew that he was pondering over important matters. She sat quietly without a word, only discreetly getting up to make a cup of hot tea for him and gently placing it in front of him. What does Yi Beif have to do with what is going on in Skybearing? Ling Tian's thoughts had drifted once more. If he didn't have a job, why would an assassin like him be so free as to run over to Skybearing? To enjoy the scenery? If he had an objective, who would it be? His mortal enemy Yu Mansion? Will it affect my plan? It seems like I'll need to disturb him once again. Light footsteps traveled to his ear as Yu Bingyan and Wei Zhuan approached. Ever since Yu Bingyan had opened her heart up to Ling Tian, the two of them seemed to have improved their relationship by another notch. However, Yu Bingyan was still noticeably shy. Thinking about how she had so openly shouted out all her inner thoughts in front of her two sisters, she felt somewhat embarrassed. Now, seeing Ling Tian again, it was like a newlywed wife seeing her husband for the first time, happiness, shyness, and not knowing what to do. Ling Tian stifled his smile as he looked at Yu Bingyan, which caused her to unconsciously lower her head, her two hands clutching the hem of her clothes as she glanced up at Ling Tian. When their gazes met, she seemed like a frightened bunny and immediately lowered her gaze again. While Ling Tian couldn't see her face now, he surmised that it was definitely bright red. Ling Chen and Wei Zhuan were staring at the two of them, their faces plastered with odd-looking smiles. Strangely, Wei Zhuan's expression also looked a bit envious, while Ling Chen's expression had a trace of jealousy. Just then the sound of a servant rang from the entrance of his courtyard saying, reporting to the young noble, Nangong Yu of the Nangong family is here to visit, and requests for an audience. She's currently in the Great Hall. Chapter 205, Crying Wolf. A sly smile suffused the corners of Ling Tian's mouth and he thought, hee, Nangong family, it's about time that you came. He raised his voice and said, tell Miss Nangong that I'll be there shortly. Yu Bingyan raised her head, an expression of jealousy in her eyes as she commented, Miss Nangong? Brother Tian, your luck with the ladies seems to be pretty good. Other than this little sister and the princess of the Zhou family, now there's another princess from the Nangong family. Who knows how many more hidden princesses you have? There was a hint of bitterness in her words, as though she was scolding him for being a huge skirt chaser. He just needed to sit in his home while all the pretty ladies offered themselves up to him. It took her so long just to get to meet him today, but he was actually going to spend time with another lady. Thinking of this, her embarrassment was immediately washed away, and she spoke up bluntly. Sniff sniff. Ling Tian jokingly raised his nose to the air, before frowning and saying, "Why is there such a weird sour smell? Is it me? No, I remember washing quite thoroughly yesterday." Ling Chen and Wei Xuan laughed out loud, and Ling Chen gathered up her courage to say, "Young noble is in trouble, with Miss Nangong coming to visit. It looks like our future madam is going to be angry." While it was a jest, there was a slight hint of jealousy hidden deep within. How smart was Ling Tian? He immediately forced out a helpless smile. With such a tigress in the house and with such heaven-defying abilities, this young noble doesn't dare to do anything. Don't you agree, First Madam of the Ling family? This phrase was directed at Yu Bingyan, but the intended recipient was Ling Chen. Hearing the words, First Madam of Ling family, Ling Chen's face turned red, and a sweet feeling permeated her heart. "How dare you call me a tigress? What First Madam? Rubbish." Yu Bingyan thought that Ling Tian referred to her, and was greatly embarrassed and shy, finally recalling that her words sounded like a jealous wife chiding her husband. Thinking about how even Ling Chen had called out the words young madam, she couldn't help blushing and threw herself at Ling Tian, her tiny fists making threatening gestures. Ling Tian stretched out his hands, and the pair of milky white hands landed firmly in his palms. He lecherously stroked them, and Yu Bingyan's face immediately turned red as she frantically tried to pull back her hands. Ling Tian laughed evilly as he said, "It would be an offense to myself to reject a beauty that offers herself to me." As he spoke, he exerted a little strength, and Yu Bingyan was pulled into his embrace. A whiff of perfume entered his nose. Yu Bingyan snorted once and struggled a little. However, Ling Tian's lips were already beside her ear, whispering, "If that Miss Nangong was half as cute as Yenner, then I might consider her, but a pity, for such a venomous woman, the further away I am from her, the better I feel." Yu Bingyan snorted once more, but one could hear that her tone was different this time. She simply rested lazily in his embrace until her pair of hands finally achieved her objective, snaking to Ling Tian's waist to give him a vicious pinch. An agonized cry echoed throughout the little courtyard. Meanwhile, Nangong Yu impatiently fidgeted inside the Ling's great hall. Beside her was a grave and stern youth, and behind were 4 ramrod straight guards. She had already sat there for nearly an hour, but the silk pants young noble who said he would be there soon was still nowhere to be seen. Her tea leaves were steeped till they had no taste left. Nangong Tian, who was originally supposed to accompany Nangong Yu here, but after the battle with Yu Tian that day, his face looked like it had been bitten by hundreds of ants. How could he bear to show his face in public? Furthermore, with his attitude, the head of Nangong family also couldn't feel assured sending him over. This was really bullying people intolerably. A streak of viciousness appearing in Nangong Yu's petite face. "Ling Tian, one day, you'll fall into my hands, and I'll wipe away all my humiliation." Ha ha ha. Miss Nangong took the time and effort to come all the way here. This young noble really feels honored. Following this bout of false laughter, Ling Tian walked in with large strides, a look of enthusiasm on his face. Young noble Ling is too polite, forcibly enduring her temper. Nangong Yu forced out a tiny smile. "We should have visited you some time ago, but due to circumstances, we could only do so at this time. Please forgive me for coming over without any prior notice." "Haha, Miss Nangong is too polite. This is?" Ling Tian gestured at the stern youth beside her while keeping his smile. "This one is called Nangong Wu Ming." Before Nangong Yu could say anything, the youth had already introduced himself. His tone was full of condescension, as though Ling Tian wasn't good enough to deserve his respect. "Oh? Haha, turns out it's the top expert of the younger generation in the Nangong family, Nangong Wu Ming." Ling Tian laughed in surprise, but a chilling ray flickered in his eyes. "You're indeed beyond ordinary, like others say." Nangong Yu unhappily stared at Nangong Wu Ming before she turned to Ling Tian, saying, "We're sorry for impolitely coming without any warning. This little sister has prepared a small gift for young noble, please accept it." Ling Tian nodded his head and smiled, "Don't worry, I won't reject it. I never reject anything as long as it's sent to me. What gift is that?" Nangong Yu's next sentence caught in her throat. She expected Ling Tian to politely refuse the gift after hearing about it, then play the game of Taiki where the host and guests continuously pushed the gift to the opposite party. However, Ling Tian defied all expectations by simply accepting, and even throwing in the words of "I never reject any gift," as though her gift was worthless. This made Nangong Yu feel like simply standing up and leaving. "Haha, Miss Nangong wouldn't have simply come just to send a gift, right?" Ling Tian sat at the head seat, propping up his legs even before his butt touched the chair. Grabbing the tea that the servant girl passed over, he lightly blew on it, not even bothering to raise his head to address her. At the same time, he waved his hands, sending everyone else out of the hall. He indifferently said, "I believe Miss Nangong wants a private conversation, so I've taken the liberty to dismiss everyone first." Arrogant and rampant to the very maximum, 100% silk pants. Ling Tian was long aware of her motives, but how could he not extort her when she was right at his doorstep? Furthermore, the Nangong family was scheming to use the Ling family to their advantage. Thus, he might as well get straight to the point and allow them to say what they had to say. Nangong Wu Ming snorted coldly as he took a step forward, ready to teach this ignorant fellow a good lesson. However, Nangong Yu pulled him back, restraining her own anger as she replied, "This little sister is here today to discuss a matter of life and death with young noble. Do you have the capability to seriously discuss such a matter?" Although she had tried her utmost to endure, Nangong Yu couldn't control provoking him, signaling to him that if he didn't have enough authority, he had better defer to someone else. Ling Tian smiled indifferently, "Concerning the life and death of our two families? Hee, isn't Miss just crying wolf? What is the basis behind such words? Forgive this Ling Tian for being stupid, but I don't understand where you're trying to go." Seeing that she had successfully hooked his attention, Nangong Yu's eyes lit up as he replied, "The Yang family has already entered into an alliance with the Beiming family. Furthermore, ever since the number 3 of the Yu family came into Sparring, the Yang family seemed to have obtained their support. The Yang family probably intends to eliminate both the Ling and Nangong family. Especially your Ling family, since you have been enemies for the past decade. The situation now is precarious, and it could deteriorate at any moment, so how is this not a life and death matter, young noble?" After the battle with Yu Man Tian yesterday, the Nangong family concluded that it was definitely a ploy from the Yang family. With this, their hatred for the Yang family deepened by a notch. This was especially so for Nangong Tian who was gnashing his teeth while being bedridden. He didn't hate Yu Man Tian, as his skills were obviously below his, but he hated the Yang family to the bone, and he swore that he would take Yang Kongkun's head as his own chamber pot. Under these circumstances, the Nangong family decided that it was necessary to form an alliance with the Ling family, or when the Yang family finished colluding with the other families, any influence that the Nangong family had in Sparring would be destroyed. It was to the point that just the Yang and Yu family working together would be able to topple the Nangong family. Therefore they brought many opulent gifts today, for the purpose of strengthening their ties with the Lings. In Nangong Yu's heart, she felt that in order to get Ling Tian to obediently listen to her, all she needed to do was just to frighten him a little, then give him some benefits. As such, the moment she heard that the Ling family's elders had all entered the palace, she immediately came knocking. Nangong Yu was filled with confidence at being able to achieve her objective today. But she didn't expect that Ling Tian would be so unyielding, completely unable to be molded to her designs. The Yangs were awarded titles at the same time as my Ling family, and our relations have always been rather good, So what enemy? Furthermore, the relations between you Nangongs and the Yangs have been amicable, to the point where you could be considered almost half a Yang family member. By saying such things, do you think that I, Ling Tian, have my ears stuffed full of SHT? Ling Tian coldly smiled. Chapter 206, Revealing Trump Card. Nangong Yu's face immediately turned blue as she thought, who said that this darn Ling Tian was an uneducated rogue? With just a simple few sentences, he made me completely speechless. Everyone knows that my Nangong family and the Yang family are opposing each other despite us being in-laws on the surface. My deceased brother is the son-in-law of the Yang family. For me to openly say that the hatred between the Yang and Nangong family is irreconcilable, wouldn't that create rumors? Thinking for a long while, Nangong Yu continued to remain silent. She was certain that Ling Tian wasn't the silk pants in the local legends. Instead, he was a powerful opponent. After a long while, she then decided to go in a different direction and gave a bow. It is difficult to fool a wise man. I never imagined that the #1 silk pants of the sky-bearing empire was a wise man. The people of the world are just too foolish. You have really opened this little sister's eyes today. Ling Tian then looked around. Wise man? Where's the wise man? Who's the wise man? Nangong Yu smiled. Young noble Ling's tale can already be seen. Why do you have to continue acting as such? Now is the time where united we both stand to gain and divided we will suffer losses. With young noble's exceptional wisdom, how can you be ignorant about that? Oh? I would like to hear about what Miss Nangong is implying. What will we stand to gain by being united and how will we suffer losses by being divided? By forming an alliance with your Nangong family, what will we gain? On the other hand, what will we lose by not forming this alliance? Ling Tian pretended to be slightly convinced, leaving Nangong Yu a chance to continue with what she had to say. At the same time, he sneered in his heart, the Yang family forming an alliance with the Yu family? Aren't you daydreaming? That is no more than Yang Kong, that old fogey, playing tricks on you. Only your Nangong family would be fooled by those little tricks. Young noble is a wise man. The Yang family has the ambitions of wild wolves, resorting to all means necessary to deal with both our families. I believe that our Nangong family isn't the only one at odds with them. Your Ling family will definitely have to face them sooner or later. Why give that old thief the chance to deal with us separately? Why not form an alliance to fight him together? As long as we can wipe out the Yang family, young noble will have no opponents in sky-bearing. Wouldn't that be great? As for my Nangong family, we would be able to take revenge for my older brother, venting our pent-up anger. Isn't this profiting by being united and losing by being divided? At the end of it all, we both stand to win from this alliance. Nangong Yu bent her body forward slightly and said softly. After realizing that Ling Tian wasn't the silk pants she thought he was, Nangong Yu found herself in a poor position from her previous miscalculation. It was common knowledge that the party that requested an alliance would definitely be on the losing end, and the other party would definitely have the advantage, having the right to state their conditions. This was as good as giving the other party whatever they wanted on a silver platter. In the present situation, Ling Tian was able to wait but the Nangong family couldn't. Their destruction might well be around the next corner. Thus, even if they had to make concessions to the Ling family, they didn't have a choice at all. Ling Tian then sat up straight and glanced at the gifts Nangong Yu brought over. With a smile, he seemed to have agreed with what Nangong Yu said as he replied, "While what you say is true, the Nangong family seems to be lacking in sincerity." As Nangong Yu saw that Ling Tian sit up straight, she thought that her words had moved him and felt elated in her heart. However, she never expected Ling Tian to say something like that immediately, and was completely puzzled. She then realized that Ling Tian was probably trying to exploit their Nangong family through this alliance. She then thought to herself, while this fellow has some brains, he is still lacking. While I cannot underestimate him, He isn't one I need to fear." She then let out a bright smile, and said seductively, "I wonder what young noble means by that?" Seeing how Nangong Yu was trying to seduce him, Ling Tian was elated. "What a pity, just a Ling Chen beside me is already miles above you. Your looks are probably only good enough to deal with people like Yang Wei. They are far from enough to deal with me." With a sneer, he walked forward with his hands behind his back and said, 2 days ago, the Yang family was facing both internal and external troubles. But 2 short days later, the situation took a drastic turn and the Nangong family is now the one in deep trouble. Miss Nangong, don't try to scare me with your words. The Yang family dealing with my Ling family is no more than nonsense. I believe Miss Nangong knows the reasons without me spelling them out. Even if Yang Konkun was 1,000 times braver than he is now, he wouldn't dare to touch my Ling family. I wonder what Miss Nangong thinks about that?" Nangong Yu was stunned as she looked at Ling Tian. At the same time, she was at a loss in her heart. What a powerful Ling Tian! What a sharp tongue! Indeed, Nangong Yu was extremely clear that with a trump card like Beyond Heaven, even the publicly acknowledged #1 family, the Yu family, wouldn't dare to make any rash moves, not to mention the Yang family. To put it nicely, the Nangong family is looking to form an alliance today with my Ling family. To put it bluntly, Ling Tian chuckled, your Nangong family is here to seek help or even protection. Hee hee. Since you are here to seek help, then, Miss Nangong, this little bit of sincerity, do you think it is sufficient? Ling Tian pointed to the gifts Nangong Yu brought with his chin and let out a wild laugh. Nangong Yu's face turned red before turning pale. She never imagined that the idiot in her eyes was actually so wise. She couldn't help but be frustrated from rage, angered by how she had belittled Ling Tian in her heart. At the same time, she couldn't help but feel a sense of desolation. To think that the majestic Nangong family would actually be forced into such dire circumstances. To think that they suffered so much from a single wrong move. Before she opened her mouth again, Ling Tian suddenly changed his attitude. However, this young noble is rather interested in joining hands to deal with the Yang family. The question is, will your Nangong family be able to accept my conditions? Hee hee hee. As Nangong Yu heard that there was hope, despite the fact that Ling Tian obviously wanted to extort their Nangong family, their Nangong family had no choice but be extorted willingly. In fact, they had to be extorted while faking a face full of smiles. Nangong Yu could only wish that Ling Tian wouldn't mention any conditions that their Nangong family wouldn't be able to accept. Thinking about that, Nangong Yu could only swallow her anger and ask, I wonder what young noble Ling wants? As long as our Nangong family can accomplish it, anything can be discussed. Can be discussed? Ling Tian snorted, your Nangong family colluded with Ling Kong and had designs on our northeast horse ranch. You guys even planted many spies in our Ling residence. Your Nangong family has been eyeing my Ling family for more than a year or two already. Did you really think that our Ling family didn't know anything about that? Such ambitions are completely intolerable. Do you think I should help someone who covets the wealth of my Ling family? Ling Tian's eyes then scanned Nangong Yu's pale face. If you want my Ling family to help your Nangong family, it is possible. Hand over all of your people without any exception. You can use the lives of these almost 100 people to display the sincerity of your Nangong family. If that's the case, I will consider this alliance seriously. If not, there is no room for negotiations. This condition of mine isn't too much, right? Ling Tian said in a heavy tone as his lips curled up into a sinister grin. Nangong Yu's heart turned cold. With regards to the Nangong family eyeing the Ling family, she had only found out about it recently. After Nangong Tianlong realized his daughter's wisdom, he had briefly mentioned this matter to her. This matter had always been the greatest secret in their Nangong family. She never imagined that Ling Tian would describe the matter so easily. How could Nangong Yu not be surprised? Furthermore, Ling Tian made things very clear: use the lives of these almost 100 people to display the sincerity of your Nangong family. This meant that Ling Tian had already obtained reliable information and just wasn't willing to take action right now. It was already impossible for them to deny this matter. Besides that, Ling Tian's stern gaze had shot right into the depth of her heart and shook her very soul. In that moment, she just couldn't say a thing. In her life, this was the first time she was completely flustered, stammering without knowing what to say. Ling Tian's expression then lightened up as he laughed. However, I don't think Miss Nangong is able to make the decision about this one small condition. It is best for you to consult your father first. He, there is no rush at all. Really, I am in no rush at all. It wouldn't bother me if you get back to me a few days later. Of course he wasn't in a rush. In the whole Sky-bearing city, the Nangong family was probably in the most awkward position with the least amount of time. For Ling Tian to mention such a condition in this moment was akin to looting a burning house, and he wasn't afraid that the Nangong family would reject him. He wouldn't allow the Nangong family to reject him either. Besides, why wouldn't the Nangong family want to exchange a bunch of already exposed spies for the 200-odd people who came to Sky-bearing? Nangong Yu's face turned red when she heard what Ling Tian said. Previously, she was ridiculing Ling Tian for not having authority to make the decision. In a few short sentences, she became the one unable to make the decision. This little sister indeed cannot make such a decision. However, my father isn't in Sky-bearing and I will have to discuss this matter with my uncle. I will give young noble Ling a reply as soon as possible. How about that? Nangong Yu said carefully and slowly. She was already certain that the person in front of her wasn't someone easy to deal with. Ling Tian shook his head and gave a slight smile. With a tinge of sarcasm in his tone, he said, Miss Nangong, what is the point of trying to lie in front of a wise man? Your father is obviously in Sky-bearing to take charge of the affairs in the city. Do your Nangong family really think that this is a heaven-shaking secret? Do you really think that you can fool everyone? Ha ha ha, what a joke. Chapter 207, Revealing His Strength. Nangong Yu opened her eyes wide in astonishment. Demon. That was the only word that flashed through her mind. She was thoroughly shocked at how Ling Tian had managed to discover so many secrets. At this point, she realized that the rumored #1 silk pants Ling Tian might not be as simple as he seemed. Nangong Tian long together with the Scions entering Sky-bearing was supposed to be a hidden affair, yet Ling Tian seemed to have obtained this information a long time ago. Young noble Ling, don't go too far. Nangong Wu-ming remarked coldly, staring at Ling Tian with unmasked killing intent. Ever since Ling Tian entered the hall, he had ignored him, as though he was worthless, and this was something the arrogant Nangong Wu-ming found unacceptable. However, Ling Tian continued to ignore him, instead addressing Nangong Yu with a weird smile on his face. Actually, just based on your family's standing in Sky-bearing, this young noble is still rather unwilling to ally with you. Especially with this sort of person here, why would your father even consider sending him over? Does he secretly hope for these negotiations to fail? Ling Tian stretched out a hand, pointing at Nangong Wu-ming, prodding the air a few times as he continued, I really can't fathom what use he has, maybe to show the family's prestige. Ha ha ha. Nangong Wu-ming let out a howl of rage, as he was already at his limit. His original pale face flushed unnaturally red as he pulled out his sword in a swift motion. What arrogance! Turn around and let this young master teach you a good lesson. I'll let you know that there is always someone better than you. Nangong Wu-ming had always regarded himself as a genius. As a talent of his family, he was used to getting whatever he wanted, so how could he endure this sort of humiliation? Under such circumstances, the blood rushed to his head, and he didn't think of the consequences. Nangong Yu was aware that this was not the time to offend Ling Tian, but before she could open her mouth, Ling Tian had already put on a mocking smile as he jeered, Look at this. Miss Nangong, he is that sort of worthless fool. Even if I were to curse his 8 generations of ancestors, he still wouldn't dare to do anything to me." Nangong Wu finally had enough. Throwing his sword to the side and brandishing his fists, he rushed forward. Despite his anger, he knew that their family would not be spared the moment he killed Ling Tian, even if by accident. Because of that, he finally decided to discard his sword. A pity that he was horribly wrong. The self-assurance he had made him pay a huge price in return, almost that of his life. Haha, even a rice grain-sized pearl can reveal some brilliance. Ling Tian chuckled. His body suddenly floated up strangely, and while keeping his gaze on Nangong Yu, he thrust his 2 hands behind him. Both their fists hit head-on without any deviation. Because Ling Tian had deliberately stored energy in his fists, when they connected, Nangong Wu's fists instantly shattered. However, before any sound could come out from Nangong Wu, a foot had already connected with his abdomen, propelling him back and upwards, with a gout of blood rushing up in his throat. Ling Tian hadn't even turned his body, still facing Nangong Yu with that same elegant smile while his body flew backward. His fists then accurately hit the chest of the descending Nangong Wu. The latter's descending body once again flew up like a rag doll, slamming harshly into the ceiling of the Great Hall before crashing down. Ling Tian already had a leg lifted up, and the moment Nangong Wu dropped below him, that foot viciously stepped on his face and ruthlessly pinned it to the ground. The beautiful tiles were totally smashed apart, with half of Nangong Wu's face buried in the floor. All this happened in the time it took to light up a lamp. Up to now, Nangong Wu hadn't even had the chance to scream out. Even the blood that had rushed up in his throat hadn't been spat out. While maintaining his posture of stepping on Nangong Wu's face, Ling Tian smoothed his shirt and dusted his hands, giving an amiable smile to Nangong Yu as he spoke. "Miss Nangong, now we finally have some peace and quiet, haha." Showing the family's prestige. Yes, that is exactly what Ling Tian just did. If he hadn't shown off his strength to completely intimidate the Nangong family, why would they obediently hand over the list for the spies they had planted in the Ling family? Now he was letting Nangong Tianlong weigh the benefits. What were more important, the lives of the slaves or the lives of the scions of Nangong, including him, who were currently living in Sky-bearing? If he didn't make a choice, Ling Tian would burn both the jade and common stone. When it is time to endure, one should of course hide, but when it was time to reveal himself, Ling Tian didn't fear anyone. Now that Ling Tian had a rough grasp on the abilities of the 8 great families, he saw no need to continue hiding. Especially since this concerned the internal affairs of the Ling family, Ling Tian would rather expose himself than let them continue to hide within. Ling Tian knew that the Nangong had already plotted against the Lings for a long time, but both his open and hidden searches had only yielded a small number of results. From the last time Ling Jian tortured some spies, he knew that while all the spies knew there were accomplices around, they were not aware of each other's identity. This went to show how deeply all of them had hidden. To leave this group of people here as well as the Ling Kong father and son pair was akin to letting cancer grow unchecked. He needed to, and had no choice but to exterminate them. Now that the situation was getting clearer with every passing day, Ling Yan was already mentally prepared to take drastic actions to remove the cancer. His laying low in the past was mainly because he didn't want to hit the grass to warn the snake one, but now that the snake was already in his grasp, how could he let it go? The moment a servant had reported the arrival of Nangong Yu, he had already sentenced the Ling Kong father and son pair to death. Thus, Ling Tian had purposely angered Nangong Wu, and then using the most ruthless methods possible left him crippled on the ground. Ha ha ha. Just use the top expert of the younger Nangong generation to exert influence. The tides and seasons change, and a new era of chaos was about to come. Ling Tian simply had no more patience to continue playing with them. The moment Ling Tian chose to show himself, he couldn't afford to have any kind of hidden enemies behind his back. Even if it was a baseless suspicion, he would rather get rid of them than be sorry. Furthermore, the Nangong family needed the Ling family at this moment to go against the Yang family. Thus, even if Ling Tian were to showcase his true strength, why would they want to reveal it? They probably couldn't wait to hide it to use as a trump card, rather than broadcasting it out. If they wanted to spread the word, that would also have to wait until the Nangong family left Sparring. However, that would be a different matter by then. Ling Tian himself hadn't even decided whether he would allow the Nangong family the chance to leave Sparring alive. Looking at the gently smiling face of Ling Tian, Nangong Yu suddenly felt that she was looking at a devil. Her eyes reflected an expression as though she had seen a ghost, trembling while pointing her finger at Ling Tian, but unable to even say a word. As the eldest daughter of the Nangong family, she was definitely aware of Nangong Wu Ming's strength. He could even match 20 blows from the strongest in their family, Nangong Tian Hu. However, in front of Ling Tian, he seemed to be like paper match, thrown around without any ability to retaliate. We Nangongs pride themselves on our sword god Manuel, but Wu Ming just now didn't even use a sword. Wu Ming had also underestimated his opponent. In that instant, Nangong Yu thought up various reasons to explain his defeat to Ling Tian, but she couldn't bring herself to say any of them. Those who were aware could see one glance that between Ling Tian and Nangong Wu Ming there existed a divide as wide as heaven and earth. Whether or not Wu Ming had used the sword god Manuel, or if he had underestimated his opponent, none of that mattered. The result would still have been the same. Was this still the good-for-nothing silk pants? Was this the #1 playboy of Sparring? Was this still the licentious young master? In that instant, Nangong Yu only felt her brain melt into a mess, completely incapable of any coherent thoughts. Before Ling Tian had exchanged blows with Nangong Wu Ming, the 4 Nangong guards had expressions of fury, their hands pressed on their swords and ready to rush in. However, at some point, they had already returned to their old positions with deathly pale faces. All of them had trembling hands, and their attitudes were incomparably respectful. This was the fear induced by a top-notch expert. When Ling Tian's gaze swept past them, 4 men and 8 legs started shaking uncontrollably. Chapter 208, Changes in the Palace. Ling Tian then slowly walked towards Nangong Yu, but she was still in a daze, in shock from what had just happened. Just how often would the well-pampered Miss Nangong see a scene like this? With a gentle slap on her face, Nangong Yu snapped out of her daze and looked at the warm smile on Ling Tian's suave face. In that instant, she felt as though she was staring at a venomous snake, and fear filled her eyes. Instinctively, she wanted to let out a loud shriek. A finger was then placed on her lips gently without the least bit of strength. However, Nangong Yu had lost all courage to even let out a shriek. Her mouth remained agape, but she didn't dare to let out a sound. With a satisfied smile, Ling Tian closed Nangong Yu's chin gently and looked deep into her eyes. If you want to cooperate, you must listen to me carefully. Go back and tell Nangong Tianlong that this young noble's patience is limited. If the list of names doesn't arrive before my patience runs out, A vicious glare shot out from Ling Tian's eyes as his tone turned cruel. Then all 168 of your Nangong family members will not be returning to the Gold Jade City. This is a promise that I can definitely fulfill. You must definitely believe me. Within that firm tone, there was no doubt that Ling Tian could definitely accomplish what he just said. It was as though the things he said were a truth that no one could doubt. A soft groan sounded from the floor and Nangong Wu Ming's body trembled. Only then did everyone realize that Nangong Wu Ming wasn't dead despite his heavy injuries. Ling Tian was only trying to flaunt his might and wasn't trying to kill, so Nangong Wu Ming was still alive. While he was probably better off dead, he was still alive. If Ling Tian didn't want him to die, he couldn't die even if he wanted to. Ling Tian was naturally clear about the degree of strength he used and was certain that Nangong Wu Ming wouldn't die. He then looked towards the 4 followers of the Nangong family and saw a look of hesitation on their faces. It was as though they wanted to help their #1 expert in the younger generation get up but were too afraid to do so. With the corner of their eyes sneaking a glance at Ling Tian, their bodies were still trembling from fear. Ling Tian then let out a sigh of pity. The talents of the Nangong family had been reduced to such an extent and their morale was already rock bottom. It would be a wonder for such a family to have any accomplishments in this war for hegemony. Pointing at one of the trembling guards, Ling Tian shouted, "You! Hurry up over!" Before Ling Tian finished his sentence, that guard's body trembled as his eyes rolled up and he collapsed on the floor. He had actually fainted from fear. After that, a yellow puddle could be seen spreading out from him and the smell of urine emanated from it. He had actually lost control of his bladder out of fear. Ling Tian frowned and cursed in his heart. Ignoring the members of the Nangong family, he walked out of the hall. Behind him, 4 dumbfounded members of the Nangong family were standing there in fear. Another 2 were lying on the floor. A silent atmosphere pervaded the place, as though it was the beginning of the Nangong family's downfall. A long while later, Nangong Yu's body shook as she snapped out from her previous nightmare. Looking at the hellish scene in front of her, she squatted down and began to puke. "Why did Miss Nangong come here?" Yu Bingyan held up the rosy red cherry, asking with a smile while enjoying the fruit. However, her eyes looked towards Ling Tian with a trace of worry, and even Ling Chen also perked her ears up. "I want to eat cherries." Ling Tian ignored her question and opened his mouth instead. Yu Bingyan's face turned red, and she stuffed a bunch of cherries into his mouth. In that instant, Ling Tian's mouth was stuffed full as Yu Bingyan scolded, "Eat, eat, eat. I'll just stuff you to death." To their amazement, Ling Tian's mouth began to twitch for a moment before he opened his mouth again, spitting out all of the cherry seeds. On the table, a small pile of 50 to 60 seeds could then be seen. Miss Nangong says that she wants to be my concubine." Ling Tian raised his eyebrows and teased. "I don't believe you. Who would like a silk pants like you?" Yu Bingyan shook her head in complete disbelief. "Why don't you believe me? With my suave appearance and overflowing talent, there are countless ladies out there who want to marry me." Ling Tian continued teasing her. Yu Bingyan's face turned red. "I'll go and ask her what right she has to set her target so high." While the little princess of the Yu family was extremely smart, her IQ would be reduced to 0 when facing anything with regards to Ling Tian. Holding her back, Ling Tian said, "Little miss, I thought you didn't believe me. Why are you still going to ask her that? No matter what, she is the little princess of the Nangong family and it is fitting for her to be my concubine. However, I advise you to not go over now. The smell there is just too unbearable." Ling Tian shook his head with a miserable expression. "The smell is too unbearable? Why?" Not only Yu Bingyan, even Wei Zhuan and Ling Chen became curious. Did Miss Nangong have any unmentionable illness? Ling Tian was speechless as he thought to himself, just what should I say? Should I say that a fellow lost control of his bladder after being shocked by me? If I really say that, the few of them will probably puke out all the cherries from disgust. My life wouldn't be good for sure. Just when he was stuck in a dilemma, the sound of a galloping horse could be heard from the outside. Ling Tian thought to himself with a frown, apart from me, who would dare to ride a horse at full speed in the Ling residence? Who would be so bold to do that? A loud neigh could then be heard with the heavy panting of a horse accompanying it. Obviously, the horse was completely exhausted from sprinting. Ling Tian's gaze narrowed as he looked towards the door of his courtyard and stood up. Did something bad happen? Ling Tian? Where is Ling Tian? An anxious voice sounded. following which, a slim figure pushed the door of the courtyard open and clumsily barged into the courtyard. A beautiful lady could then be seen, with a sweat-filled face, palace dress, and long silky hair. It was Princess Jiayu. Ling Tian's heart shook, and he knew that something must have happened in the palace. Before Princess Jiayu said anything, Ling Tian had already shouted out, "Wang Dong! Prepare 2 horses! Quick!" In his anxiousness, Ling Tian had imbued his dense inner qi into his voice. His voice then sounded like thunder, making the girls' ears ring from it as their heads turned dizzy. Apart from Ling Chen, the other 3 ladies had already collapsed on the floor. Right when Ling Tian shouted, Ling Chen had quickly circulated her inner qi to form a whirlpool-like barrier to protect Yu Bingyan, Wei Zhuan, and Princess Jiayu. If not, this earth-shattering shout from Ling Tian probably would have caused the 3 of them to puke blood on the spot. Probably everyone in the sky-bearing city would be able to hear this loud shout of his, not to mention those in the Ling residence. Wei Zhuan, Yu Bingyan, and Princess Jiayu looked towards Ling Tian with shock. Feeling the dangerous aura emanating from his body, the 3 of them felt as though they no longer knew the person in front of them. Is this still the gentlemanly Ling Tian? While Ling Tian could be heartless towards outsiders, he was extremely concerned towards his family members. His grandparents, parents, and everyone from the Ling family. His aunt, Ling Ran, was also someone who he cared about a lot. Only then did Ling Tian look at Princess Jiayu and ask anxiously, "Did something happen in the palace?" This wasn't something difficult to guess. Why would Princess Jiayu personally make the trip here if not for something happening in the palace? How could Ling Tian not be anxious with all of his family members in the palace? Mother suddenly fell ill, and all the so-called famous doctors in the palace can't find the cause of it. Grandmother asked me to personally call you over. Are you medically trained? After finally catching her breath, Princess Jiayu said anxiously and incoherently. It was obvious that she was extremely flustered. Otherwise, with her understanding of Ling Tian's upbringing, she would never ask something as silly as, "Are you medically trained?" Ling Tian felt his heart tighten as he thought, "I never thought my prediction would come true so soon. We just received news about Ling Ran's pregnancy the day before and something happened today. Ling Chen, follow me." Without any hesitation, he carried Princess Jiayu in his arms. Before Princess Jiayu could even let out a cry, the both of them had already disappeared. Following that, Wei Zhuan and Yu Bingyan realized that Ling Chen had also silently disappeared. Both the ladies then looked towards each other with shock. While Yu Bingyan had already suspected that Ling Tian practiced martial arts, she never imagined that the level of his martial arts was so high. Ling Chen as well, not only was she familiar with zither, chess, painting, and calligraphy, she also had a stunning level of martial arts. This was far too shocking.